In 2016, the WWE decided that it was best for them to bring back the brand extension, which means two separate shows, two separate rosters, two separate writing teams, two rosters with completely different directions facing completely different opponents, at least for the most part. Everything different. And normally when you think different, you think, oh, this could actually bring about some positive change for the WWE. And on one side, you didn't get that change. Unfortunately, it only got worse. On the other side, you actually got a little bit of positive change. And I'm talking about the SmackDown side. Now, SmackDown definitely had its flaws, but early on in the new brand extension in 2016, SmackDown was easily the better show. And SmackDown was doing a lot of good. And I thought that Backlash was going to be, or needed to be, a really good launching point to get SmackDown on the map. Because when I saw SmackDown during the WWE draft, I thought, oh my god, this show is going to suck. When I saw SmackDown leaving WWE draft, I thought, wow, SmackDown is actually right now better than Raw. And for a majority of the new brand extension, that was the case. Unfortunately, in recent times, times have changed. But, at least here, at Backlash 2016, SmackDown put together a very good opening showcase, if you will. Put together something that puts SmackDown and its performers on the map, I guess you could say. Definitely a lot of positives on this show, and it definitely wasn't a bad show looking back at it. You know, back in 2016, I was perfectly fine with the women being put together in one big colossal match. And we had this six-pack elimination match where Becky Lynch was crowned the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion. Back then, I was fine with it. It was a good showcase of the women that SmackDown had. Now, unfortunately, the creativity is gone, and that's pretty much all they do with the women now is just put them in multi-women matches, which do absolutely nothing to progress their characters, to progress their feuds, anything about the women. But back then I was fine with it. Because again, you needed a good introduction, and that's what you got out of it. Becky Lynch going over, she was deserving. I would have liked to see her do a little bit more during the match, but at the time, she was deserving of it, so kudos to her. Then you had to also add a new tag team championship, the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. And here we had the qualifying match, the Usos versus the Hype Bros. Kind of was whatever. The Usos went over. I still am not sold, and this is now August of 2017. I'm still not sold on the Usos as heels. Quite frankly, I wasn't even sold on them as babyfaces. I'm just not sold on them. But back then, they won. Great. Miz versus Dolph Ziggler. I'm not really going to say much about this because I've seen it 100 freaking times. The Miz as IC champion works like a charm. Dolph Ziggler as IC champion does not. So Miz going over here, great. Awesome. Bray Wyatt defeating Randy Orton via forfeit. You know, here's just another feud I didn't care about, another storyline I really didn't care about, because I knew what direction it would ultimately go, and it's the direction that it went. And to top it all off, it's not even the fact that Bray won via forfeit. It's perfectly fine with me. It's the fact that we had to insist on giving Bray Wyatt another match on this pay-per-view against Kane. And of course, Bray Wyatt can't beat Kane on pay-per-view. I mean, just because I said SmackDown did some good doesn't mean they were all good. doesn't mean everything was good. And Bray Wyatt definitely was not good, and still is not good. Get over him. But this tag team tournament final, Heath Slater and Rhino, shows you how much I was paying attention to the WWE back then. I was kind of on and off, and I still am. I didn't even know Heath Slater and Rhino were a tag team until I saw some of the promos that they were cutting, and I thought, you know what? Let them roll with it. It's funny. It's entertaining, so let them do it. And they won the tag team championships here. Props to them. Props to the chick from Wendy's. But everybody, when going back to Backlash, talks about AJ Styles versus Dean Ambrose. And I know what a lot of you are going to say, and I honestly agree. Oh, well, this match was only good because Styles carried it. Ambrose didn't do anything. Well, to me, I hate Dean Ambrose as much as any other guy, but it takes two to tango, and I'll give Dean Ambrose credit where credit is due. He actually kind of sort of cared about this match. AJ Styles definitely cared about this match. He went into it looking like $1 million, came out of it looking like $1 million with a championship. And it's hard to believe, and it's still hard to believe, in August of 2017, almost a year later, and AJ Styles won the WWE Championship at Backlash in an incredible match. It was a really damn good match. And there's no denying that. For a first SmackDown main event of the new brand extension era, and no, I don't count SummerSlam, I'm talking about SmackDown main event on its own show with its own performers, just them standing out. A really good first impression with AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose. And honestly, even though there were some negatives on the show, like Kane and Bray Wyatt was a pretty big negative, Ziggler and Miz, to me at least, was a pretty big negative because we've seen them face off 100 freaking times. We're probably going to see them face off 100 more times down the road. Who knows at this point? Even though there were negatives on the show, it was definitely a good opening act, if you will. It was definitely a good startup. And it led to SmackDown becoming the better show, at least for the time being, and it actually led to some entertaining television along the way. Unfortunately, I wish we would get some of that now, because SmackDown has, unfortunately, reverted back to being the B show. And I'm not saying Raw is a good show, because it's really not, but SmackDown really took a turn for the worst. But at least here in Backlash, at Backlash 2016, SmackDown had a lot of positives, and it left the pay-per-view with a lot of positives, and it went into the next pay-per-view with a lot of positives and a lot of momentum going for it.